G'day guys, how are you going? When that final siren sounded, I'll get to the fans shortly, but I'll start with the players and the coach, I suppose. And I haven't listened to the press conference. Wanted to get this review out of the way. Thinking about heading down to the beach today, which is, maybe we haven't got many more of these beautiful warm days left in us. So thought I'd make the most of the opportunity to do that today. And I haven't listened to the press conference, but I don't think the celebrations, once the siren sounded, it was a hot day. Like, it was a hot day for the players out there, so they were probably pretty rooted. They sang the song. I don't know what they were feeling after that game, how they felt about it. But if anyone's ever played sport or football, I'll say football at any level, when you win a game like that against an opposition who, and everyone says this competition is really even, like it is even at a certain point, but then there is just like, this West Coast Eagles team is just so bad, just rancid, putrid. But if you've played sport at any level and you have a win like that, and once the dust settles, you sing the song, have a few beers, whatever that may be. And I know the players, I think, were coming back last night on the plane. There's no doubt our players sitting on the plane would have looked at each other and just thought, fuck, how bad are they? Like, how bad were they? There's no way in the wide world that the players and our coach would be getting carried away with that, other than just getting a much needed win on the board and giving yourself just a glimmer of hope in a season which I think after 5 rounds is still kind of slipping away from us, even though we do get on the board. And this isn't about, now we get onto the fans, this isn't about like being happy, being dissatisfied, because there is, to me, 2 camps here. There's probably where I'm coming from, which kind of sounds negative, because I think it's important to get on the board. I said it is a competition. Like, this is a competition you need to win, and we've won. So it is a positive. But this is about, for us, the whole and where we should be, and where we need to get to. So people will say, enjoy the moment, enjoy it for a minute, enjoy it for a day or two, but I'm just not in that camp. I just can't, and not for 1 second throughout the game was I necessarily happy, just because of the quality of the opposition, just because where we're at, where we're at, that's all. And we were never going to get any answers from this. Like, it could have been disastrous. Which it wasn't. Which is kind of unfair. It's kind of unfair to be that way, given that we won a game of football by 71 points. But that's just the way it is, because I am looking at the bigger picture and the whole, and I'm just not satisfied at all. And one, the quality of the opposition, and also what lays ahead. And I know people say, yeah, but you don't look too far ahead, just concentrate on what we've got in front of us, the next week and all that type of stuff. But no, we're 1 in 5 now. What it's shown is we are clearly better than the worst team in the competition. Who we've beaten up on, mind you, for a period of time now. I think that's 4 or 5 wins in a row that it's been in excess of 10 goals. So I mean, who would have thought that? The once mighty, powerful West Coast Eagles are just like, just a shell of a football team. And yeah, it's a tough gig for their new coach, Andrew McWalter. And the supporters, the Eagles supporters, were jumping on last night, calling for his head, which is probably a little bit unfair considering what he's got to work with. But they were just so poor. But we've got North next week, which we know will be somewhat tricky. I don't know if it's 50-50, probably 60-40 in our favour. I mean, they're not going too well, but they'll be better, you would think, under the roof. And I think they'll set themselves for that game against us, Good Friday, etc. So that's a big one. And if we could somehow win that, we go to 2-6. But it could be 1-6. But then the next 5 games before the mid-season bye, is what I'm kind of looking at. And why I'm looking at that is because we should, and I always say this, guys, we should, where we should be benching, marking ourselves against the best teams in the competition at that, those teams that are fighting for a spot in the top 8, and also teams that are inside the top 8. And that's what we should be benchmarking ourselves against. And we've fallen short so far this year. So it's impossible not to look ahead. It's just impossible for me anyway. And that's what I'm looking at, because I'm genuinely excited about, I'm kind of getting excited about the North game, just to see if anything that we were able to do yesterday can then translate into another game against probably a team that's a little bit better than the West Coast Eagles, you would think, particularly around the midfield. We just mauled the West Coast Eagles midfield yesterday, and that was probably not without the influence of Tom DeConning. It was more, Hewitt and Chera and Walsh. Cripps, was kind of affected, particularly when he went forward, and I think he set the world on fire when he was in the midfield. But we completely annihilated them in that part of the game with contested possession, and they just couldn't get their hands on the ball. I mean, those stats, they're just mind-blowing. But that stretch of games, those 5 games before the mid-season bye, is just so tantalising for us. Geelong, Adelaide away, St Kilda at Marvel, Sydney away, and then the Giants, then the bye. So just say, for example, we get the win against North Melbourne, which we won't be getting carried away with at all, but it's another slight step if it happens. What do you think? Honestly, the way we played yesterday, which was enough to beat the Eagles by 71 points, but it wasn't kind of pretty. It wasn't kind of pretty. Even the poor West Coast Eagles, who were shocking, were able to open us up defensively. It was kind of like we got kind of aggressive and pressed up really high. But sometimes the way they move the ball from coast to coast, and even our efficiency, it's just not going to. That's just not going to cut it. But Geelong, Adelaide, St Kilda, Sydney, the Giants, bye. So just say we were 2-6 going into those games. So it's 11 games we would have played before the mid-season bye. You'd want to be winning. You'd want to be winning at least 3 of those games. 3 of those games to go, say, 5-11, which wouldn't be sort of ideal. I right now, guys, right now, I just feel like our season's done. That's my sense. That's my sense. You know, I just feel like it's done. Um, and that's why, that's what, I think that's why people aren't satisfied, and I think that's why people aren't happy, even with a 71-point win. I just feel like they look at the bigger picture. They even look at the way we played yesterday, although we were really good at the contest against just a crap team. You just feel like that's just not going to stack up against the best. And it's also going to be really difficult against those teams that are kind of around us, you know, what that are kind of around us. And I'm talking, you know, that game against the St Kilda, you know, and even Sydney, who aren't travelling that well at the moment, but they will be at their ground. Adelaide away, you know, like and I haven't even looked at the second half of the season because I think that is too far to look ahead. I'm like, I think that's been like, to win 3 out of those 5 games, I think that's like probably wishful thinking. Like, that's wishful thinking, don't you think? And I don't think that at all is being unfair with this group, because there's just fucking so much work to be done with this team. And it is about execution. It really is. It's about execution. There's no doubt in my mind that the guys went there yesterday with a appetite to contest and compete and to win that game of football. But it's not. It doesn't feel like it's going to be sustainable against the best teams in the competition, and that's where. Well, fucking hell! I nearly fell off the stool here. That's where we should be benchmarking ourselves. That's what it is. And I think that is why I am looking forward. I am really looking forward to that patch of games. And for me, it obviously starts with the game against North Melbourne on Good Friday, to tick that one off if we can. But then the Geelong game, and just looking at the way they performed the other night in Adelaide, and just how professional they are, how well coached they are. You know, their players are all in sync. They're all connected. They've got match winners, but at the same time, they've got just excellent role players, really even across the board. That's one we'll be looking forward to, definitely. Yesterday, from a player point of view, obviously there was. I spoke in the preview, guys, about players being dreadfully out of form. You know, who trying to find somewhere near their best. And I think the thing that stood out for me yesterday was probably the Sam Walsh game, and it was an excellent game. He's had 37 and kicked 3 goals, but this is why you've got to be a little bit careful, because it just appeared like, you look at it on the surface and go, he's covering the ground a lot better, you know. And I think the criticism of Sam Walsh over the course of this year he looks a bit sluggish. He's not moving well. But he looked like he was moving well yesterday, and he hit the scoreboard with his 3 goals and had 37 touches. He's only had the 5 clearances, but it looked like more of probably an outside game. But the space that he was afforded in this game against the West Coast Eagles, you just got to stop there and go, he's not going to get that. He's probably not even going to get that against North Melbourne next week, and he's definitely not going to get it against Geelong. He's definitely not going to get it against Adelaide or even St Kilda. They're going to clamp down on him. He's going to be cramped. So we're going to see more of that kicking around his body potentially. But you've got to look at it and go, all right, we know he's been a quality footballer since he started. Was that the game he needed to get his season going? We're just going to have to wait and see. I thought our midfield was, without the influence of Tom De Koning, who I thought, for the most part, was I think it was an average game for Tom De Koning. I think he started really slowly against a pretty average AFL ruckman and Bailey Williams. But at midfield, I mean, Hewitt's having a really good season, like a really good season. And Chera has been consistent. And what happened in this game yesterday is because we just dominated territory inside 50, 70 odd, it just meant our sort of key defenders looked a lot safer. You know, I mean, McGovern was okay against poor quality opposition. Haynes probably had his best game for the footy club against poor quality opposition. I think Silvani has had a really good start to this year as a defender, and I think he was really good, particularly early, and McGovern as well. And they didn't see a lot of the ball, but like it's not going to be like that. It's not going to be like that again. And in our front half, it was still rather messy. I think because there was so much space afforded in this game, and the Eagles didn't necessarily work hard enough across the course of this game, that we're able to, even us with our generally poor kicking skills, we're able to just sort of pick holes through whatever defensive system they had, which was really poor. We were able to find targets at will through the middle of the ground, and even inside forward 50. I think we had a heap of marks inside forward 50, but it kind of still looked a bit a bit messy. With that, Corey Durden came in. He had a really good game in the VFL last week with his tackling pressure, but he got on the end of 4 goals, which is a positive for him. It's not going to be that easy again, but it has to be a positive. Fogarty, Motlop, yeah, they didn't really cash in. I felt like Motlop added something a little bit different in our midfield when he got a chance to go to some set of bounces. Felt like he had a turn of speed, got his hands on the footy. I hope they sort of persevere with that moving forward. But I don't know. For the most part, it was a solid display to get a much needed 4 points to get on the board, and that's where I'm going to probably going to leave it here, guys, because it's all about the bigger picture, the whole for us moving forward, and what we really want to benchmark ourselves in this competition and where we should be. I think obviously the win is once again soured by the Harry incident early. He'll miss next week, and just we can't seem to get a good run at it with having both Curnow and Mackay in the team at the one time, and also the injury to Brody Kemp as well, which was I'm not quite sure the severity of that, but it didn't look good. That's the classic case of a ruptured Achilles tendon, and all the sort of post-game stuff with the players going up to him and him being on crutches and stuff suggests that it looks really serious, which once again will stretch us. But it is what it is from an injury point of view. You just got to find some replacements. I liked what I saw from Matthew Carroll, particularly early in the game. Got his hands on the ball, used it quite well. Got a little bit messy as the game went on. Once he got a little bit tired, thought he was quite good. Cooper Lord came in, got another opportunity. I think he would have probably appreciated a game where it probably wasn't at a high intensity, just to get his confidence up. And for the most part, players that have been down, I'll finish on this, players that have been down, just maybe found some confidence and some form against what was one of the worst teams I've seen for some quite time in the West Coast Eagles. Anyway, take care, guys. Speak soon.